Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be going deep. We're going to be talking about doomsday, nuclear strikes and aliens watching. Now, before I get onto this video, the reason I'm doing this is the doomsday clock basically in the West has been the doomsday clock from the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, the doomsday clock basically, it's been put forwards now and we are at the closest we've ever been to full-scale doomsday, nuclear Armageddon, whatever you guys think that is. Now, when I'm doing live streams and people talk about nuclear weapons and nuclear strike and this nuclear rhetoric and that nuclear rhetoric and Putin's, I don't think nuclear weapons. Well, I've spoke about my thoughts on nuclear weapons for a long time, but I've never actually done a standalone video where I've spoke about why and I've articulated it and I've shared with you guys links, and so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to talk about why my wild theory on nuclear weapons is as it is. And again, I might be wrong. I don't think I am, or I wouldn't say it, but I don't think I'm wrong. So what I'm talking about now is one of the biggest enigmas of our time. Sightings of unidentified flying objects, UFOs or UAPs, as they're more fashionably called now, hovering near nuclear missile sites, nuclear test sites, nuclear power plants. These aren't just campfire tales. They're backed by eyewitness accounts from military personnel, declassified documents, and patterns that stretch back to the birth of the atomic era. Now, I'm just going to share with you guys a couple of articles here. I'm not going to go into the articles, but you guys, all you need to do is do a search, and for these keywords, and you'll find out all these things, all these things will come up and it will tell you, UFOs seen, UFOs seen near US bases, UFOs seen near alien bases, UFOs, and there's so many of these different articles. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. The perception is that it's true. And I'm going on that, guys. I'm going to go on that perception that it is true. There are I'm going to put these links in the description as well. So I will be referring to some things. I will be jumping onto some screens. But it all began in the late 1940s, right as humanity unlocked the Pandora's box of nuclear power. Now, again, with physics, with science, if you look at humanity's evolution through the scientific footpath, we really accelerated until we invented nuclear weapons, and then literally nothing. We've had no big breakthroughs in physics and science since we invented, since E equals MC squared. So it all began in the 40s. Humanity just unlocked Pandora's box of nuclear powers. Reports started to trickle in from places like Los Alamos in New Mexico and the Hanford plutonium plant in Washington state, where flying discs, remember before this time, nobody knew what UFOs were. They were just flying discs. They were just wild things in the air. Unexplained alien phenomena were spotted zipping around these sensitive atomic hubs reportedly as early as 1948. Perhaps even dipping back further to 1945, according to some declassified FBI and CIA files. Now, fast forward to 1964 at the Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. You guys can Google this. Literally, I will put the links in the description. There was something called the Big Sur incident. During a routine missile test, a UFO was allegedly captured on film, intercepting the warhead and turning it off with a laser. So, missile test, UFO turned it off and it fell to the ground. There's footage of that somewhere, allegedly, rendering it useless mid-flight. But the real chills for me, and the thing that I always talk about, and the one that really really puts my spider sense up is the 1967 Maelstrom Air Force Base incident in Montana. Now, this incident, guys, like this is so well documented. This is so well accounted. The people have come out and they've talked about this in like real time. I'll just jump up the Wikipedia page. From the Wikipedia page, Maelstrom UFO incident. I'll just read this and I'll continue. In 1996, retired Air Force personnel claimed that weapons failures at a Montana nuclear missile complex in 1969 was connected to reports of a UFO sighting over Maelstrom Air Force Base. The claims became known in ufology and popular culture as the Maelstrom UFO incident. Skeptics argue the UFOs was likely the planet Mars or entirely unrelated to the malfunction. A military investigation found no connection between UFO sightings and the incident. But guys, come on, let's be real, all right? The people who were there, if you guys, I mean, there's a whole Wikipedia page, you know, there are too many of these incidents now. One, yeah, all right, maybe one incident, right? Yeah, it's somebody and he's being, you know, he just wants to get a name for himself. Two, yeah, whatever, you know, all right, these people are copycats. But there are so many of these incidents where UFOs, whatever you want to call them, UFOs, UAPs, aliens, are seen over either military sites. And remember, these military sites where these nuclear weapons are, they're highly guarded. Yes, Area 51 in the United States, in Roswell, that was where they had nuclear weapons as well. So there's too many of these now to take it as coincidence, to take it as, you know, just a one-off. Like I said, the real chills came to me when I read about this one. So in 1969 at the Maelstrom Air Force Base in Montana. So U.S. Air Force Captain Robert Salas recounts a glowing red orange disc hovering above the site while 10 Minuteman nuclear ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, under his command suddenly went offline, unlaunchable in an absolute blink. A similar glitch hit a nearby flight just days before. The missiles bounced back in about a day, I think it was. They came back online. Official probes chalked it up to electrical hiccups. Are we saying that, guys? Are we saying that all 10 missiles, just UFOs flying above and then all 10 missiles just stopped working? No idea why. They're saying that, you know, the official probes they chalked it up to electrical problems or classified tests. But the eyewitnesses, like Robert Salas, swear otherwise. These are not isolated incidents, guys, okay? Throughout the 60s and 70s, bases like Minot in North Dakota saw repeated intrusions, objects loitering over silos, sometimes sinking with temporary weapon malfunctions or activations. 1970s brought more. In 1975, Loring Air Force Base and others in Worthsmith, Michigan, reported silent, luminous crafts buzzing near armed B-52 storage vaults. Nuclear armed, sorry, B-52 storage vaults. Then there's the infamous 1980 incident right here in the United Kingdom, Rendlesham Forest. The Rendlesham Forest incident. Now, if you know where Rendlesham Forest is, there's a lot of peculiar stuff around that region. Now, I don't know whether this is aliens, whether it's the occult, whether it's ghosts, goblins, demons. I don't know what it is, but I know it's something, right? There's too many of these things now to just wash them off as a one-off. So RF, I think it's Brentwaters in the United Kingdom. Rendlesham Forest, which is just outside RAF Brentwaters in the United Kingdom, is a joint US-UK base, and at the time they were guarding nuclear weapons. Lieutenant Charles Holt and his team chased, and this is all documented, guys. This is all documented. These testimonies are there for everybody to see. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt and his team chased unexplained lights and a triangular craft through the woods in Rendlesham Forest with beams reportedly aimed at the weapon areas. Holt even taped the whole ordeal. It's often dubbed as Britain's Roswell. Britain's Area 51. Is it 51 or 52? 51? I think it's 51. And this is complete with actual traces on the ground. Now, these are not just American or Western stories. These have been happening in the Soviet Union again, or Russia, as you know, modern day Russia. Now, they're less reported. They're less reported in. It seems like it's not happening as much in Russia, which could mean two things: one, they don't have as many nuclear weapons as they pretend, or two, the reporting is just different in Russia, and a lot of people, these go unreported because people don't want to seem silly. So Soviet accounts from the 1980s describe discs over missile bases causing unauthorized activations and deactivations, the same as the United States. And all these things, guys, you can find these. This is all open source information. And it persists. Recent reports in the 10s and the 20s, including cigar-shaped craft, disrupting communications at Woman bases, including clusters near nuclear plants. Now, the drones and the UFOs over the recent ones, I think it was in 2023, I'm not convinced about those. I think those were actual quadcopter drones. I do. I think those things were drones. But if you go back to the 40s, I don't think they were. Researcher Robert Hastings has interviewed over 150 ex-military, compiling evidence in his book. He wrote a book called UFOs and Nukes, painting a picture of deliberate surveillance. Now, here's where I'm going to throw it out there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to throw it out there. And the reason I don't talk about this when I'm doing like the longer live streams and we're talking about global events and Putin's threatening this and, you know, and Donald Trump saying this, a lot of people don't really, you know, they have a closed mind to this sort of stuff. But let me ask you this. When you look up at the stars, what do you see? You know, we're led to believe, and if it's true, there are millions. Maybe we don't even know how many galaxies there are. But I think in our galaxy alone, there are more stars than there are grains of sand in all the beaches in all the world, right? Sorry, in Earth. So if you consider that each star has planets orbiting, are we really saying that we're the only intelligent life in the universe? I think it's a mathematical certainty. If our understanding of the universe is correct, I think it's a mathematical certainty then that we are not alone in the universe. Now, if people say that no, aliens don't exist, we are the only existing life in the universe, that's equally as terrifying, because it's like, okay, so that means that the theory of evolution is totally wrong, right? All our science books and everything, it doesn't make sense. So whichever one those, so when people say aliens are not real, that's just as wild, right? Because if you get people to explore these things, and a lot of people don't want to explore them, they want the big, you know, they want Trump, big march, taxes, ooh, Islamabad. You know, they don't want to think into the deeper meaning and the wider meaning that we are literally just like animals on a planet floating around the universe and nobody really knows what's going on. So here's where I'm going to throw it out there, right? I don't believe nuclear weapons will ever be used again in combat. I don't. Not because of treaties or human wisdom. You know, those do help, I guess. But because perhaps of aliens or some sort of non-human intelligence is watching closely. These sightings scream oversight. Just, you know, and I just mentioned a few of them. I only mentioned a few of the sightings, like the big ones. These sightings, they absolutely scream oversight, a cosmic reminder that we are playing with fire on a planetary scale. And if they are out there intervening subtly, it might just be their way of keeping us from self-destruction. Skeptics are obviously going to scoff. You know, they're going to scoff and say tech glitches, and, you know, they're going to say all sorts of things. But the two questions, right? There's two questions, really. Do you think we're alone in the universe? Yes or no? All right. Either one of those answers is equally as wild, right? We are either alone in the universe, and if we are alone in the universe, then our theory of evolution and everything we've been taught at schools, Darwin, everything, it's all wrong, right? It's all wrong. Or we're not alone in the universe, and then there are aliens, and why haven't they visited us? So either way, it's wild, right? So the question I'm going to ask you guys is, and put this in the chat, what do you think? Are we alone, or are we under a watchful eye? Now, I'm going to caveat this. I'm going to leave a big caveat on this. All right. I don't think that nuclear weapons will ever be used again in combat. I don't think they will. Now, if they are to be used again, what you would see is a series of tests from both sides, because it's not as easy as people think. It's not as easy as people think to detonate a nuclear weapon. You know, I mean, we all see Putin and his weapons, and we will send nuclear weapons. Yes, we'll destroy with nuclear. It's not that easy, right? It's not that easy. First of all, you've got to get them out there. You've got to get them out of storage, right? Once you're out of storage, you've got to make sure they work. Then you've got to fit them into a delivery vehicle. And these things take time. It's not as easy as you think. You know, it's not as easy as it's not as easy as turning the oven on, right? It's not as easy as getting into the car and driving into shops. So in that context, you would see a series of tests between both sides. So maybe the Russians and the Americans, maybe the Brits, maybe the French, who knows? Because there's a lot of people got nuclear weapons now. So that's where I am on that, ladies and gentlemen. And I just wanted to jump on and do a more in-depth live stream on this. Right, let me jump up and get some comments. Right, good afternoon, everybody. I said I was going to come on again, right? I did. I said I was going to come on again. The last live stream we did, I closed that down. Well, not early, but I closed it down a little bit because I wanted to jump back on. Max Vogan is saying, just angels from both sides, darkness and light, are only watching. Oh, that's dark. And light, I guess. Cindy is saying, no, I don't think we're alone in the universe. Correct, Helen's saying. Banagain is saying, Sean, giving us the official elite narrative for what comes next. Blue beam. Look, listen. I understand that there's this perceived Project Blue Beam or Operation Blue Beam, and I don't know. And it's like what I say a lot of times. The truth's kind of arbitrary. What matters is the perception, right? So if we're being told, right? If we're being told, and look, guys, and I called this a while ago. I said there's going to be there's a huge alien disclosure coming. I said there's a huge UFO, UAP alien disclosure. It's coming. It is absolutely coming. It's not going to matter whether that's real or fake. Do you know why it's not going to matter? Because you will still have to do the same thing, whether it's real or fake. All right. Let's just pretend, right, that the governments, let's just go blue beam, right? Let's compare them both at the same time, right? Let's say Project Blue Beam is real. It's fake. It's to unite world. There's one world government. It's going to be a fake alien invasion. There's going to be all sorts of wild stuff happening, right? And it's all fake. Or real alien invasion, real aliens come in. They really want to probe us and suck our brains, right? Either one, right? Whichever one of those is true, you and me are still going to have to do the same thing, right? We're still going to have to, probably go on rationing and, probably do whatever the aliens tell us to do or whatever. So either way, it doesn't matter. Trevor saying we filmed UFOs over Avebury, Wiltshire at 3:30 a.m. in 2020 in 2003. Peabody's saying, no, I don't believe we're alone. Look, guys, like, you know, so when people say this, you know, when people say, and I always do this, right? I always do this when you know, I always go down that road with people, and they you know, I don't get invited to many parties, right? I don't get invited. Don't invite Sean; he'll just get weird and start talking about aliens. If you say to somebody, right, just don't say this to them, or maybe do. If you don't want to get invited back to that party, maybe say this. You know, I mean, people are talking about aliens, you know, and if people are laughing at you, right, because you believe in aliens, just say to them, okay, so do you think there are aliens or not? And that's when their mind will go. That's where their mind will go. So you say, okay, so there's no aliens, and then explain to them the vastness of the universe, and what they're saying is there's no intelligent life out there. So how did life start on this planet? Like, what are we talking? Because if they're going through that way, that means that Darwin, science, everything they've been taught in schools is wrong. And both of those lines of, you know, those belief lines are equally as wild, right? Big B is saying, I don't know about aliens, but Big Brother is watching. It certainly is, guys. It certainly is. There's lots on the there's lots at the moment about 15-minute cities, personal data tracking, facial recognition. And when, like, you know when they, like, Shabina Mahmood, she did, I mean, I can't argue. Like, there's something so wrong to me about facial recognition, right? There's something so wrong. I don't know what it is, though. I don't know what it is. So I'm not a fan of Shabina Mahmood, but she came out and she said, you know, when fingerprinting, you know, when people start to take fingerprints in like the 18th century or whatever it was, you know, there's a big outcry. It was against people's, you know, against people's identity. But, you know, fingerprints catch criminals and stuff. And it's, you know, and it's a way to identify who people are. She said the same about facial recognition. Now, I can't argue with that logic. I cannot argue with that logic. I think facial recognition will be able to identify people, and it will stop crime and all sorts of stuff. It just feels wrong, right? It just doesn't feel right. And I can't put my finger on it. I can't really, you know, I don't think I'd be able to argue. I don't think I'd be able to argue with that, because what you can say is, you can say, oh, well, fingerprinting is only going to stop people. You know, it's only going to be able to surveil on people who are not criminals, because criminals will wear a mask. Well, you know, you could have that same argument with criminals wearing gloves, stopping their fingerprints. So it's a wild time we're living in. John Scott is saying, I believe there's loads of life in the universe, but it may be impossible to reach over planets. I think your spell check got you there. I think I believe loads of life in the universe, but it may be impossible to reach over planets. I think that means because it may be impossible to travel faster than light. Well, I think it is impossible to travel faster than light, but I think if you look at the Alcubierre drive, then warp drive, basically, a warp drive would be where I need little props, don't I? I need a little spaceship or something. Imagine your spaceship, right? Imagine this that fell off my curtain rail is your spaceship, right? Imagine that's your spaceship. You know, E equals MC squared says that nothing can travel, information can't travel faster than the speed of light in a vacuum. That's the cosmic speed limit, right? But what if space-time can move? What if the whole space-time can move with the craft inside it? That's the Alcubierre driver. So there may be ways around it. There may be wormholes and stuff. But I agree. You know, I absolutely agree. When people say, have aliens come here from another planet, I always say to them, not using known physics, right? That's what I always say. I always say not using known physics. And it's kind of an easy way just to stop the conversation, because, like, if you start going down that conversation with people who don't really understand, you know, space or concepts or like the vastness of the universe, and all they know is like their little world that's in front of them, you know, it becomes very difficult, and the conversation just like starts blowing people's minds, and you look weird. You look weird if you're having a conversation. Equally, if you're with the right people, you can have fantastic conversations. So yeah, I will always say I'm not convinced aliens traveled here in little flying saucers. Unknown physics. I just don't think that's a thing. I think if aliens are here, they are transdimensional, so they're operating in another dimension that we just can't see. They are using Clark tech, so technology that we just don't even know exists, or maybe we do and it's just not public. Or they've been here all along and they probably live under the ocean or in Antarctica. So either one of them, either one of them. That's why on this, on this live stream, I didn't really want to go down the aliens route, because and I've said this before, if there's a race of Atlanteans living on Antarctica after they fled after the Great Deluge in the Younger Dryas in 11,500 years ago, if there are a secret race of Atlanteans living on Antarctica, living under the oceans, it would be quite clear that their technology would be indistinguishable from magic, right? It would be absolutely indistinguishable from magic. And it would also stand to reason that this is their planet as well, and they don't want nuclear weapons being fired. So that to me has a lot more, it's a lot more credible to me that there was an ancient race of humanity living on Earth. There was a huge flood. They fled to Antarctica. The rest of humanity developed slowly, and the Atlanteans just continued to develop their technology in Antarctica, maybe even under the ocean. And that's where these UFOs are from. Because if we're sharing the planet with another race of people, a technologically advanced race of people that are far beyond what we could look, think how much our human technology is advanced. Think how AI is advanced in the last 2 years, right? Think where humans have come in the last 100 years. Like literally, like 100 years ago, what we on? Let's go 150. Let's go 1900, right? Let's go 1900. In 126 years, look at the advances, right, that humanity have made in technology, right? Imagine like John Scott, right? Imagine going back in time, right, to 1900 and explaining to someone what the world is like in 2026. Yes, they're all going to think we've got flying cars and, all the rest of it, but you would not be able to explain to them the information revolution that we've had. The information that we can share instantly, the communications that we have instantly, satellites going around the earth, mobile phones, the internet. You are not a chance you're going to be able to explain that. Computers, you're not going to be able to explain that to somebody from 1900, right? So now think about the Atlanteans potentially who may or may not have fled to Antarctica 11,500 years ago. Think where their technology is advanced in 11,500 years. We would see them as gods. We would see them as aliens, right? And it would make more sense to me that it was these Atlanteans or somebody living on Antarctica that's whizzing around the nuclear weapons and saying, yeah, lads, just this is our planet as well. You're not firing those things. Like, yeah, you're good. You're not doing that anymore. We're just gonna turn them off. Have your little wars. Have your little presidents, but yeah, you're not firing none of those things. That would make more sense to me. Right, let me jump down, guys, because guys, there's lots of comments on the chat. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening. I am the English Eggman G with a fun. Is that some Heather? Is that some lucky Heather? The Heather you've got in your what's that? Is that your left hand? I am the Englishman G saying we will make our own disclosure. Zombie Force is saying there's a big difference between was and is. Good morning, Raven. Good morning, everyone. Well, good morning, Zombie Force, and good morning to you. Band again is saying aliens experimenting on kidnapped. Not nice, are they then? Look, I don't know. I really don't know. I've watched Independence Day, and I'm not a big fan of aliens. I don't want to get alien probed. I don't want to get any probed, actually. Least of all, alien probed. Right, lads, here's a question for you. Right, lads, here's a question, right? Would you rather get alien probed and no one finds out? Or would you rather get man probed and people find out? It's a difficult question, right? That is a difficult question. Jesus. Anyway, yeah, we're all talking about probing. We are all talking about probing. Oh, and John Scott is saying, maybe the aliens have only ever found one planet other than theirs, and they don't want us to kill ourselves with it. You see, if you guys look at some of the readings that have been found on Mars, all this information is out there. There's a certain isotope that's been found on Mars, and the only way that we can the only way humans can make that isotope here on Earth is after a nuclear explosion. I think it's like little bits of glass or something that get formed after a nuclear explosion. So some of the theories are that aliens fled from Mars. Well, Martians. There was a nuclear war on Mars. They fled from Mars. They came to Earth. They populated Earth, and we are the Martians. Michael is saying they cover up aliens. Right, okay. Right, guys, can we leave the stuff? I mean, right, I'll read it. They cover up aliens because Jews say they're the supreme ones of the universe. All right, well, maybe that's the case. I don't know. But can we just keep it to a minimum, guys? I don't want to, I'm not going to block anyone. Look, guys, at the very worst, you're going to get put into permanent timeout. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you're jumping on right now, oh, hang on. Sharon is saying, Sharon P is saying, facial recognition at Manchester Airport couldn't identify me after 2 weeks in Ibiza. It's useless. I don't know what you done in Ibiza. And user, a load of stuff says, the problem with aliens in America is that some come in legally. Get yourself some papers, bro. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining for the first time, I've been talking about a potential doomsday nuclear strike. Aliens watching and the UFOs, UAPs that have been confirmed. Now, I'm going to go through this again for the people who are watching for the first time, and then I'm going to turn this off now. One of the things I've always said on my live streams is I don't think, I'm not going to change my mind. I don't think nuclear weapons are ever going to be used in combat again. Now, I'll give you I'm not going to go through it all, actually. If you're jumping on now, then wait till the video is uploaded and watch the video back from the beginning. But there was an incident in 1967. Let me get this up on Wikipedia, actually. What I'll do is once I finish this live stream, I will put all these links in the after about an hour. Once it's uploaded, I'll put all the links in the like the description down below. So this incident here, the Maelstrom UFO incident. Now, I've looked into this like massively. Like every little bit of information on this incident, I've like gone through. It's very hard to debunk. It's really hard to debunk. And look, for those of you guys who've been following me for a while, I do debunk a lot of this UFO stuff. A couple of the things, like the main one that I debunk is the Pentrasian UFO incident in Wales. I so debunk that. I used to be based there at the camp, right? So like real world experience. Everything that's said in those UFO incidents, I can debunk 100%. There's nothing that I can't debunk. I can guarantee with 99.9 chances that was absolutely a special forces exercise. Why do I know that? Because I've been on lots of those exercises. It was the right time of year. It was at the right location. They're using the right kit and equipment that they always use. It's called exercise chameleon, where you go from the black roll to the green roll, or the green roll to the black roll, or you change over. So 100% that. So I can't debunk crop circles. I can't debunk those. So 1967, Maelstrom Air Base in Montana. Former U.S. Air Force Captain Robert Sellers recounts a glowing red-orange disc hovering over the site while 10 Minuteman nuclear missiles under his command suddenly turned off. Done. They're just off, gone, finished. They're not turning on. No emergency systems are backup. No backup systems are working. It's done. It's over. They've just been turned off. A similar glitch hit a nearby flight just days before. The missiles bounced back online about a day after. Official probes said it was an electronic malfunction. Yet eyewitnesses like Robert Sellers swear otherwise. These are not isolated incidents. Throughout the history of the atomic, I guess since the 1940s when we started playing with nuclear weapons, atomic energy. Throughout the 60s and 70s, bases in North Dakota, bases in Russia, all with nuclear weapons, have seen similar incidents where their UFOs where the nuclear weapons have been turned off, where they don't have control of them. There was another incident in, where's the one? It's California. What was it called? I can't remember the base. Basically, there was another basing. It'll come to me in a second, guys. It'll come to me in a second. There was another incident in California where there were Vandenberg Air Base. That's it. Vandenberg Air Base in the 60s. There was allegedly caught on film a disc-shaped object intercepting a warhead, firing a laser at it, and then rendering it useless mid-flight. There's footage of this allegedly. So when I say, and I'll put a load of links in the description. So when I say I don't think nuclear weapons are ever going to be used in combat, that's why. Too many of these things have happened. Now, I don't know if it's aliens or Atlanteans or some trans-dimensional beings or demons or angels that are just operating on another realm. I don't know. I don't. But what I do know is, if we are to see a return of nuclear apocalypse and nuclear doomsday, then you would see a series of tests from both sides where they're testing their nuclear weapons, they're testing their delivery system, with the nuclear weapons, because these things are not so easy to fire. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. Right, I'm going to get a couple more questions, comments, and I will go. Holly is saying subscribe. Thank you for that, Holly. Guys, listen, if you're on, please make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, share, bell notification, all those things. Macho Nugget is saying it's our alien ancestors. It may be the Atlanteans, guys. It may be the Atlanteans. Right, guys, I am going to close this down now. You guys, hang on. Catalytic converter is saying microwaves are electric, so it would destroy itself. I don't know what. Right, sorry, I don't know who's going. Right. Yeah, okay, so Kaz Clark, Sharon Owen, yeah, so the lady, Kaz Clark, nothing against her at all. She is a fantastic storyteller, Sharon. That lady, Kaz Clark, at the Pentridge UFO incident, she's a fantastic storyteller. She really is. She's great. She's just wrong. I can debunk everything she said. She talks about AWACS planes. You got the AWACS planes and they are flying very low. They're flying very low in a very tight circle. This is a NATO reconnaissance plane. You don't just deploy those for nothing. You actually do when there's a special forces exercise, because those special forces guys that are on the ground, they have to communicate with that AWACS plane, right? Because guess what? When you're a special forces operator and you're working like miles away from anyone, you don't have radio signal. You don't. Like, think about it, right? If you are a special forces operator operating like in some wild country or wherever, how do you think your radio is going to work? Do you think you're just going to press the Pressel and like you're going to use the local network? No, of course not. So your radio signal will go up to the AWACS, and then the AWACS will send it wherever you want. So you can literally talk to the Prime Minister on your radio. It's wild. So that's how they communicate. That is how they communicate. They communicate. Now, it was flying in a tight circle, a really tight holding pattern. Yeah, it was flying in that holding pattern, because if you look at the Pentrash UFO incident, look at the proximity to Cardiff Airport, you can't fly there. They would have been inferring in those flight paths. That's why it was on a tight airspace. There was helicopters and they came in and they were hovering. They were just hovering and they were firing green lasers down. Green lasers. They weren't firing green lasers. The guys were fast roping and they had a green glow stick in the back of their helmets for safety. I honestly, like the Pentrash UFO incident, I can literally like everything. I can debunk everything. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna leave this down now. I'm gonna close this down. You guys have been fantastic. Is she Indian, Mister? No, she's not Indian, but she used to live in India for a few years. Right, I'm gonna close this down now, guys. I'll be back on at my normal time. I just wanted to do this because I know I talk a lot about the UFOs and why I don't think, and when I'm on the normal live streams, I always say I don't think nuclear weapons are ever going to be used. I don't go into it that often. Why? But I have done now, and I thought I'd do a standalone video because the doomsday clock's been moved forwards. It has. The doomsday clock's been moved forwards, but I don't think we're looking at nuclear. I don't think they're moving it forwards because of nuclear Armageddon. I think they're moving it forwards because of mass migration. I do, and I didn't really want to mention that here. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you good afternoon. I'll see you guys later at 8. Don't be late.